Hello everyone, thanks for being here. This is a review to help you prepare for your mastery quiz on standard ky.hs.g.7. It's related to our angles and also proofs within the angles. So you'll see a couple of questions that you could potentially see on the quiz. Please make sure you know how to name angles and you know the vertex. So this would be related to lesson 1.19. NA, naming angles. It says, what is the name of this angle? In this situation, make sure you're always putting the angle symbol and using capital letters. We can name this 3 different ways. Angle U would be totally appropriate since it's just one angle here. We could also name this angle VUT, making sure that the vertex of U is in the center. And then finally, we can name this angle TUV. Same thing. Your vertex must always be in the center. Always one letter or 3 letters when naming angles. All right, moving into lesson 1.19, we started talking about different types of angles here. So we talked about complementary angles, supplementary angles. Complementary angles add to be 90 degrees, supplementary angles add to be 180 degrees. We talked about adjacent angles, which are ones that are next to each other. We talked about vertical angles, which are the angles that are across from each other and congruent to each other. So you might need to find different angle measures here. Feel free to use your calculator to help you out. So it says the measure of an angle is 11 degrees. What's the measure of the complementary angle? You need to know the complementary angles add to be 90 degrees. And we'll just do 90 minus 11, which will give you 79 degrees for the other angle or the complement of the angle. Maybe you'll be asked about supplementary angles. So it says the measure of an angle is 132.6 degrees. Nothing wrong with seeing angles that measure in decimal values. Just use those exact values in your calculator. Supplementary angles add to be 180. So we'll do 180 minus the 132.6. And we're left with the supplement of my original angle, which would be 47.4 degrees. Rather than explicitly giving you the measurement of one angle, they might give you a clue as to how you can find both. So it says here, an angle measures 80 more than the measure of its complement. So primary information to pull out here is that we have complementary angles. So we know they add to be 90 degrees. So something plus something else equals 90 degrees. We can create equations here, which bring us back to our algebra skills. It says that one is 80 more than the measure of the other. So 80 plus the other, let's call the other x because we don't know what that is. And we always use a variable to represent something we don't know. And then the other angle is just x. So my angle that I don't know plus the angle that is 80 degrees more than it add to be 90 degrees. So we'll just solve this like you did in Algebra 1, combine like terms. So x and x is 2x. And we add that to our 80 degrees. And then we go ahead and solve using inverse operation, which means do the opposite. So we'll subtract 80 first. And then we end up with 2x is equal to 10. And then we'll divide both sides by 2, meaning x is equal to 5. So one of the angles is 5. Both of them together should be 90. So we'll do 90 minus 5 is 85 here. Sometimes we will see the measurements inside an angle and have to figure out the measurements from here rather than seeing it written out in words. When I look at this figure, I'm seeing that I have a straight line, and I know that straight angles or straight lines measure to equal 180 degrees between the 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 angles that make it up. So we can just take 180 and subtract what we know at 64.4 degrees, and we're left over with the measure of V at 115.6 degrees. Now moving into a harder question, I see a lot going on in this figure. Don't stress about that. Think about the vocabulary that you know. Complementary angles, supplementary angles, vertical angles, adjacent angles, and then the measures of obtuse, acute, right angles, and straight angles. So I'm noticing here, when I look at my figure, if I kind of visually erase in my mind this ray, I have vertical angles here, and I know vertical angles are congruent. So 78.7 is the same as these two other angles. They together these two angles, S and 49.1, equals 78.7. So if I wanted to write an equation, because I feel really comfortable with algebra, I can. Angle S plus the 49.1 degrees is 78.7. Or if I feel really comfortable with doing some mental math, I could take my 78.7 and take away the angle I already know, 49.1, and my leftovers of 29.6 would be the measurement of S. Now looking at the final lesson that we've talked about, lesson 1.20, we're going to see some parallel lines and transversals. So I see two parallel lines that are running vertically, line VW and line ST, and then my transversal of line YR. Keeping in mind, I could have named all of these lines many different ways. They're telling you that line SU and line VX are parallel, like we just said, and they are giving me information about angle STR. So STR is located over here, and we know that it's 44 degrees. We want to find what STW is. These angles are vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent, which means my answer is 44. Similar situation, we have our parallel lines here. They're giving you information about angle POQ. We know that's 41 degrees, and we want to find out what MLO is. These look like corresponding angles in the same position, both to the left of your parallel lines and below your transversal. We know those are congruent, which means your angle measures 41 degrees. We're now looking at parallel lines that are horizontal. So they're telling us exactly what we expect. GI and JL are parallel lines. They give you information about angle GHF at 68 degrees, and they want to know about IHK, another set of vertical angles. So we're going to say that that's 68 degrees. Again, another set of parallel lines. They give me information about angle MLN, and they want to know about KLN. Now, these are not one of the 4 types of angle relationships, but I do recognize that this is a linear pair. We know those add to be 180 degrees. So we can get out our calculator or do a little mental math. 180 minus the angle we know of 134. We have 46 degrees for that missing angle. We've got parallel lines and a transversal. Again, they give you information about angle RQN, and they want to know about MNQ. Looks like these angles are alternate interior angles, which are congruent, meaning we've got a missing angle at 121.4 degrees. All right, hopefully this was beneficial for you. If you need any additional support with these 3 lessons before you take your mastery quiz, please make sure you join me in class and then also see me during win time for help. Good luck on your quiz.